All right. It's been over 300 days since the last Saints win. For us to do a Under the Dome podcast celebrating this win and talking about this win. Um, so here we are. I'm Alan Ulrich with my co-host here, Bob Rose, who is still having technical problems, but we'll see how this stuff works out. Um, Thank you guys for joining us as always. And on this Victory Tuesday now, yes, it does feel good, Jerry. Absolutely. How do you feel about this game that you watched Sunday? Because I was at the game. You heard that, John Butler? I was at that game.
I tell you, I like what I saw. First of all, it's always nice to talk about a win. We got in a rut, breaking down loss after loss. For the same reasons, week after week.
Absolutely.
We don't have to talk about Spencer Rattler being winless anymore, not about Kellen Moore being winless anymore. And don't get us wrong, folks, this is still a flawed team with a whole lot of things to improve. But we'll talk about more good than bad. And we talked about last week too, how well the team played, how much fight the team had in Buffalo after such an awful performance in Seattle, hoping that they would be, build on that momentum. And, sure enough, they did. Now the challenge is going to be, to the young players. Okay, you got that win under your belt. Let's not get too full of ourselves because there's still a whole lot of work to do. So I'm interested to see now how the team is going to respond to the win. But it was nice to watch the Saints do what it took to win a game rather than do everything possible to give away a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody gave away a game, it was definitely the Giants. 5 consecutive turnovers. Jerry's asking how it was. It was a little bit different. The crowd really got it. Was first off, it was Taysom Hill Day, unofficial Taysom Hill Day in the Dome. I saw, and I was one of them. I saw more people wearing Taysom Hill jerseys than any other jersey in the stadium. It's like everybody found out Taysom was going to play, and they all dug out their Taysom Hill jersey and wore it to the game. It was really, and when he and Foster Moreau came out to do the Who Dat chant, the crowd really got into it. They really responded. And whenever Taysom came into the game, the crowd was cheering. So there's a lot of talk right now, and I don't really want to spend much time on this. I'd rather talk about the win. There's a lot of talk right now about the Saints being very active before the trade deadline, and some of the usual suspects who want to be armchair GMs want to trade away any talent the Saints have, any old talent the Saints have. So that's guys like Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. Now Taysom Hill probably can get thrown in that mix too. Here's the thing, because we're rebuilding and they think they can just load up on draft picks by doing this. Here's the thing. Most of those guys on the wrong side of 30, so you're not going to get very much for them. But secondly, the thing about what I witnessed last Sunday in the Dome, fans have and this is very true for New Orleans, more so than any other team, I think. And I could be wrong, but it sure seems this way. They develop a bond with players, especially players that were great players back then. When Jimmy Graham got traded back in 2015 or so, a lot of people were like, yeah, it's time for him to go. We got a first-round pick for him and things like that. But when he came back, the fans really embraced him, because it was a link to the past. Thomas Morstead gets released by the Saints a few years ago, and people were just upset about him going. And they're like, yeah, we appreciate what he's done, but we really want him to retire as a Saint. And that's kind of my attitude when it comes to Alvin and Cam and DeMario, they should just be lifers with the Saints. I mean, I know DeMario was with the Jets, but I'm just talking about end his career as a Saint.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that always bugged me about Drew Brees retiring after that 2020 game is he retired to a mostly empty Superdome.
Yep.
And that's just not right. And he has come back several times, and he came out with the team for that awful, awful Monday night game against the Broncos with Sean Payton. But, you know, the fans have a right to, and the players that we love have a right to have that final goodbye in front of a full stadium where everyone can just show their appreciation at once. So I really don't want these guys to get traded. I don't want to find out, oh, Sunday was our last time we ever saw Alvin Kamara in a Saints uniform because he got traded to the Chiefs on a Tuesday. I don't need to have that kind of news. I really don't. I just want him to retire as a Saint with the Saints and just everyone can express their appreciation for that one last time, because you think about all the great players from the Saints past, how many of them did not finish their career with the Saints? We can go down the list. Archie Manning, Morton Anderson, the entire Dome Patrol, Joe Horn, you know,
Teron Armstead.
Teron Armstead's the latest, yeah. You know, I just drew a blank. I had a whole bunch of names in mind, but I drew a blank on them because, you know, how few of them got to come back to say goodbye as a Saint. You know, and it's just it hurts the fans. It really hurts the fans to watch these guys. And Thomas Morstead's the latest one. You know, Thomas Morstead's eventually going to retire, and when he retires, he'll come back to the Superdome, but he won't be retiring as a Saints player. So, you know, they all deserve that goodbye from the fans. And that's why, you know, if Taysom, this is Taysom's last year with the Saints, you know, I want him to be out there waving, you know, to all the fans in a full stadium. And he makes the announcement ahead of time. Yeah, this is my last game. You know, and he's out there for that home game. And I don't mean to be a downer on that, but that's just my attitude when it comes to those things. So Bob, who would you say were the stars of the Sunday game against the Giants?
I mean, I tried to make it as simple as I could in my game balls piece. You know, especially after I win, I like to give out at least one game ball offensively and at least one defensively. You know, the offensive one was easy for me. You know, Spencer Rattler, I thought played his best game as a pro. You know, Spencer. I'm not ready to anoint him the long-term starter or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, he's shown great pocket awareness improvement, and he's finally hitting some deep balls. Everybody saw the deep ball to Shaheed, but he hit a couple big intermediate to deep intermediate passes in the second half. One to Olave, one to Shaheed to keep drives alive. That's something that's so glaringly missing from the Saints offense. And if that switch could turn on, I think that you're going to see a whole different offensive unit. Defensively, I gave it to the whole secondary, but specifically a three-headed game ball to Kool-Aid McKinstry, Jonas Sanker, and Jordan Howden. Because I thought those three guys, and Quincy Riley, Alontae Taylor had very strong games too, but it was so obvious to give it to Kool-Aid, to Sanker, and to Howden because they were the recipients of turnovers, of momentum-changing turnovers.
Absolutely.
And I've been down on this secondary, frankly, most of the year. For blown coverages, blown assignments, just generally looking like Swiss cheese against quarterbacks like Mac Jones and Sam Darnold. I thought they really came together. They took the Giants wide receivers completely out of the game. And, the Saints pass rush, I thought, played extremely poorly. there were often times that Jackson Dart was just sitting back there. I think I wrote in my article, that Dart had time to write a book and then read it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was still no place for him to go with the ball downfield. That's secondary, folks. That's coverage. And that's deep support. That's clamping on man. That's knowing your zone responsibilities. It was a nice mixture by that entire group, with as many rookies and young players as there are. McKinstry, Sanker, Riley. There's going to be some struggles. There's going to be some speed bumps, but there's also going to be big plays, aggressiveness, excitement, and that's what we saw out of that unit.
Yeah, I was really impressed with. I watched Riley a lot in that secondary, and he really held his own. And granted, he's not going against Justin Jefferson or anyone like that, but he's still going against NFL receivers, and he's coming from Louisville as a rookie. So, yeah, I was really impressed with him. I've been impressed with Sanker now for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's breaking on the ball extremely well. He is making good decisions in coverage generally. He's avoiding the obvious pass interference stuff that, the grabby stuff that we've seen so many rookies do around here. And he's been a solid tackler. I mean, so it's a good all around play from safety position. And I can remember a lot of fans being upset and worried that, well, Justin Blackham went down, who's going to get to play safety? Tyrann Mathieu retired. We're not going to play the rookies yet, are we? And Justin Reed goes down, and Justin Reed is supposed to be the quarterback of that secondary, and it really didn't lose a step.
No.
And to me, the one who really needed a good game, and he had one, was Kool-Aid McKinstry, because I thought Kool-Aid, a lot of people are kind of getting down on him because he's getting beat, because he looks tentative in coverage and things like that. First off, I think he got hosed on that first play.
Big time.
That breakup. And I think what pissed the fans off, and I know it pissed me off even more, is the Giants did the exact same thing to the Saints receivers, and it was no flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, that's just horrible. That was horrible. So him getting 2 interceptions really, I think, will help his confidence, allow him to feel that ability. I don't have to be so tentative. I can now break on the ball. I can trust my instincts. And I think that'll help him in the long run, because no, he's not Marshawn Lattimore, but he is getting to be a better player than he was as a rookie. And that's all we can ask for right now. I was impressed with Howden as well, Hemisphere. When Howden came in, I was really nervous because I said, we're going to get a guy who's going to struggle back there. He's going to be slow reacting. He's not a sure tackler. But it's a credit to his coaching staff. They're really preparing him to play safety. So, losing Reed and him stepping in, and we really didn't notice a drop-off.
Mm-hmm.
No penalties from those guys. That's huge. That really is. I mean, Adebo came in, I think, with 1 pass interference call all game. He got 1 against us.
He did.
And I like Paulson Adebo, but yeah, that I thought that was funny. You're right. The pass rush wasn't there, and I don't know how much of it was poor play and how much of it was by design. It seemed like they were told, just hold up your blocks and don't let him out. And if they pressed to go after Dart, that's when he got outside or he took off running. I'll tell you this much. Brian Brzee was the only one doing anything out there, though.
Yep.
Except for Carl Granderson, then he gets flagged.
Right.
The people were pissed off about that play the entire drive. Every time the Giants came to the ball after that play, the boos would start again. I mean, even Giant fans were like, that's ridiculous. I've never seen a call like that in my life. How can that be a flag? And some clown on Twitter was trying to argue, oh, it was helmet to helmet. No, it was not.
No, not
the
even
helmets
close.
don't even touch. It was because I watched him come around the edge because I'm like, holy shit, here comes a freight train. I was thinking this, he's going to kill him if he doesn't get rid of this ball.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough. And the thing is, he grabbed him, hit him. You see Dart's head go down, but then you let him go to fall to the ground rather than throw his whole weight on him. And it was almost like I could see the official reaching for the flag as he was closing in.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's going to throw a flag regardless. And then the reaction of the crowd to the hit where everybody goes, ooh. And that's when, he had made the decision through the flag. And that's what pissed me off about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're an 0-4 and we're now 1-4 team, and you were playing a now 1-4 team. So you're going to get the D-League level officials, but these guys are borderline incompetent. There were bad calls throughout this game on both sides. I have never seen the officials throw a flag for encroachment, and then suddenly someone says, hey, man, it was 2-minute warning. You can't call that flag. And they pick that up.
I forgot about that one, but yeah.
I've just never seen the kind of thing. Everything was a conversation. What's a catch now? I was told over and over by Mike Pereira and all, whoever CBS has now. I don't even know who they have anymore. They all say the same thing. You have to complete the act of catching the ball all the way to the ground. He doesn't hit the ground. He fumbles. Oh, that's still a catch. What?
Right.
Anyway. But yeah, I agree with you though. The secondary's improvement is just, I really was happy with that. Who's your offensive? You said Spencer Rattler. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like Kendre Miller. We're week 5 now, and Kendre Miller is still healthy. Knock on wood.
Thank you. He's not only healthy, knock on wood, but he has the obvious confidence of the coaches. And I think that that's going to go a long way. Not too many, we talked about it, Brendan and I did when we did our post-game show when my end of the telecast didn't freeze up. I think it's very telling that with the game on the line and the Saints were just kind of trying to salt away the clock, move the ball, eat up time, maintain possession. They were handing the ball to Kendre Miller, not Alvin Kamara. Yeah. And I don't think at all that that's a knock on Alvin or a lack of confidence in Alvin. That's just the confidence that Kellen Moore has in Kendre Miller, who you and I have talked about ad nauseum, is the better suited player to run between the tackles than what Alvin Kamara is. And Kendre ended up with more carries in the ball game than Alvin Kamara because of that. Mm-hmm. He might not be ever the number one featured back with the Saints or anyone else. But if he can develop into a closer, the type of player Latavius Murray was, the type of player Mark Ingram was in the latter stages of his career, then when the Saints have the lead, in situations like this in the fourth quarter, or just to wear down a defense through the second half, if Kendre Miller can be that guy, then that frees up a whole lot of other things for the offense. Alvin Kamara, who I loved, by the way, I know Kamara had 2 idiotic drops and only had 4 catches for 28 yards, but the types of routes that they were throwing him the ball to, that's the type of route I want to see Alvin Kamara run. That's not the type of route we've seen Alvin Kamara run this year or in recent years. One of the main reasons, and you can fault Clint Kubiak, Kellen Moore, Pete Carmichael all you want, but it's also due to the fact that they did not have a legitimate complementary threat in that backfield. If you have one with Kendre Miller, that opens up a whole lot of other possibilities with not only Kamara, but Taysom Hill as well.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to bring up. So a lot of criticism has come because the Saints went 0 for 3 on red zone attempts this past Sunday. A lot of people are saying that Kellen Moore needs to be better at calling plays, and while on the surface I agree with that argument, he needs to call better plays at certain times in the game.
Hmm.
I think what you just said about Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller also affects his play calling.
Hmm.
He can only run when he thinks his offense is confident, or he's confident in his offense being able to run correctly. And I think Kendre Miller showing he can be that power in between the tackles runner gives him the confidence now. Okay, I can start calling these arrow routes or whatever you want to call them, the swing routes, the wheel routes, all those things that Kamara runs very well. Um, and I think you'll see that part of the playbook expand.
Hmm.
Um, Spencer Rattler throwing the ball downfield for a change instead of constantly attacking the team horizontally, attacking them vertically opens up things not only for the running game, but also opens up these pass routes and gets these defensive backs to back up.
Yes.
And it takes advantage of the strength of this receiving core right now, which is vertical, stretch the field kind of plays. He still has to hit them, but
Yeah.
he has to. But if he can throw those passes or will throw those passes, I think that also builds his confidence and puts the fear of God into a defense.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, even though we just gave Spencer Rattler the internet pat on the back, I think
Mm-hmm.
Spencer still has to do much better job at leading receivers. We saw him struggling with that, but the fact that he did hit a couple of these deeper throws, the fact that he seems to have a much better feel for the pass rush and for the overall pocket awareness. I think it's going to be. I hope it's going to be a stepping stone, into a more confident quarterback where he's not double clutching, where he doesn't have that half second hesitation, and if you can hit Shaheed, Cooks, Alave on the move, then you don't have to all the time hit the ball down the field as long as the defense is aware that you can. Because, again, like you said, Alan, it's going to back a safety or two off, and you're going to have more room to operate underneath. Now, if you hit those receivers in stride, those guys can make play, get yardage after the catch, something that the Saints are ranked last in the league in,
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of different reasons that we've spoken about seemingly every week.
Right, exactly. And you avoid some of the red zone problems because your receivers are getting a lot of yardage after the catch and getting you down there, or in Shaheed's case, scoring. With a relatively short pass. I mean, it wasn't. It was a deep shot, but it wasn't like he threw it from the 20 to the other 20.
Right.
Uh, and that play really worked for me, mostly because they've been running on first down so often
Mm-hmm.
that the Giants were in a single high safety and they were up near the line of scrimmage to take away a run or a short pass. So when Shaheed takes off down that field, they really let him go in cleanly and had no idea that ball was coming to him until it was too late. I used to call that the oh shit moments when you're a defensive back, because you're watching the game and all of a sudden you realize, oh shit, that ball's coming this way. And that guy's behind me. I have no shot. Speaking of which, the flea flicker, we have to give a special shout out to the reserve defensive back. When the Giants ran that flea flicker, because Dart double clutched it, and he put a little arc on that ball more so than a frozen rope. I don't even remember. I just drew a blank on the guy's name.
Burgess. It was Burgess.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Burgess was able to run down that ball and turned his head while breaking up the pass to avoid the pass interference.
Yes.
I was so happy to see that, because how many times have we seen a defensive back just go out there and just go cream the guy and draw the flag. So it's almost as bad as the play itself if they would have completed the ball, because that receiver was wide open, got completely behind our defense, and it took an incredible effort to catch up to break up that pass.
Yeah, and Burgess isn't even in the game at all. If
No.
if Reed doesn't get hurt, Howden, it only sees a small fraction of the snaps that he got. If Reed doesn't get hurt, so again, these guys have to deserve the pat on the back. The entire secondary, Burgess, Howden, and the rest of those guys, for heady play, understanding their responsibilities, which in Brandon Staley's defense, that's what's going to be key for these defensive backs, because we've talked about it several times. It took us a couple weeks to get used to it. We're so used to seeing certain responsibilities from Dennis Allen's safeties, a lot of man, a lot of press. From Dennis Allen's corners. So it was a little bit of a culture shock to see Brandon Staley does very little of that. Although we did see some man coverage on Sunday that I'm hoping that we see more of. But mainly with Brandon Staley, it's understanding your responsibilities. I don't want to call it zones, time in and time out, because that's not always what it is. But understanding your responsibility, your duties, and your areas of focus. And I thought all of these guys did a terrific job of that on Sunday.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some more of the young players, especially the rookies out of this class. So we've talked a little bit about Sanker. We talked a little bit about Riley. Riley got to start because Isaac Giddem was injured. Is it time to bench Isaac Giddem beyond the fact that he could cost us a comp 4th round pick if we leave him out there much longer?
Yeah, 100% it's time to bench Isaac Giddem, or at least severely limit his snaps. And I wrote about that 2 weeks ago, waiting for it, because at that time Riley hadn't even seen a single snap, right. On defense. And my premise was, and I said this with Simpkins on offense. I said it with Riley and Stutzman on defense. If you're a rebuilding team, and whether the Saints want to admit it or not, they are, you at least have to see what you have in these young guys. You know what you have in Pete Werner. Like it or hate it, that's irrelevant. You know what you have. You know what you have in Yiadom. You know what you have in Ruiz. Now Ruiz is hurt, and by the way, so is Yiadom. We're looking at a potential short-term IR for Yiadom. Is what I'm hearing today, and the Saints actually signed a cornerback, Michael Davis, who used to played 3 years, for the Chargers when Brandon Staley was the head coach. So you're talking about a guy who's not only knows Staley's system, but has started in Staley's system. But yeah, back to Yiadom. To me, and again, I know it's only 1 week, but to me, Quincy Riley at the very least has earned another starting shot. Again, realizing rookie, you're gonna make some mistakes, you're gonna have some bad games, but Isaac was an absolute liability in that secondary. Opponents knew it. I think I wrote that Yiadom had been targeted 13 or 14 times without a pass breakup, let alone an interception, and only 1 incomplete pass.
Yeah,
that is beyond ridiculous. I absolutely think it's time to give Riley some consecutive starts.
Yeah, because it was week 2, and the 49ers targeted Yiadom exclusively, because clearly Shanahan knew all his weaknesses and exploited every one of them. To me, I can deal with getting beat occasionally as a rookie. What would bug me more is committing penalties, getting beat and committing the penalties. And we have not, again, knock on wood, we have not seen that kind of undisciplined secondary play where they're getting beat and doing all the penalties too. They're getting flagged, but to me, both, especially for McKinstry, both the pass interference calls he got, the one he got this week and the one he got against, I think it was against the 49ers, in fact.
Yep.
Both of them early in the game, and I thought they were both bullshit calls.
Yep.
Because I thought he played the ball extremely well. It's just a bad call, and it's always a guy behind the play who thinks you're laying on the receiver when he's extending, and he's not. He just has great reach, and he's leaping forward and batting them all away, not touching the defensive and the offensive player at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just and I know when they're looking at the film, I know they're telling him, "No, man, you didn't deserve that call. That's just a good play. That's a bad call." So you mentioned a couple of the guys already who you think deserve it, more playing time. Offensively, Simpkins. We talked a little bit about this off the air, but is it time that Ruiz gets Wally pipped by Simpkins or someone?
Not just someone, anyone. And I mean, Ruiz looks like he's going to be out 4 or 5 weeks anyway. But yeah, I think if Simpkins keeps playing well, and I thought, Torricelli played a very, very good ball game. Mm-hmm. Not only Sunday, but the previous week when having to play in at left guard. Man, is that kid strong? He has mass, and I'd like to see some better technique from him.
That's why he went undrafted, though.
Right. But there's still a mold of clay to work with here. He's not whiffing on guys like a certain number 51 does several times every game, every week. So if you can just get a guy like Simpkins to get in the way, he is powerful enough to knock a defender at least off balance, which is a hell of a lot better than you were getting from Ruiz. Again, he's a rookie. He's going to be targeted, by defensive game plans in the way of stunts, delayed blitzes, stuff like that. They're going to test his awareness and his agility, no doubt. There's going to be some touch and go moments. But I think if Simpkins keeps playing even nearly as well as what he's played the last couple weeks, I don't think Ruiz does or should have a job when he gets healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, the big thing about him is the power, like you said. And if you want to be a running team, I want a road grader at guard. I want somebody with a big butt and a lot of power in his legs, and just puts his hands on a defensive lineman and pushes him backwards. Mm-hmm. And you just keep pushing that guy, kind of like the blind side. You push him all the way to the dumpster and throw him in. I mean, just that's the kind of offensive line play you need right now. So yeah, I'm very happy with him because I can, again, just like everybody else in this team, how this team plays in November and December is more important to me than how they play right now. I want to see that growth. I want to see that improvement. And I think a guy like Simpkins is someone that you can build on. You can get that growth out of. So yeah, I just, and that was the thing I always liked about Jim Dombrowski. That was the thing I liked about Carl Nix, guys that just were powerful. It just manhandled people, because if you get that, the running game opens up. Then your quarterback has more time. Now your receivers are getting the backfield into the secondary. You have time in the backfield to stand there and make your reads and pick your targets instead of 3 steps and boom, I gotta get rid of it. Because I don't want to get hit. So yeah, I'm very happy with his development. So how would you grade this rookie class so far? Banks seem to, in fact, I made the joke during the game. I said, man, did this team draft Andre Carter? What number is he? Is he out there? because I sure as hell haven't heard his name. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
Brian Burns. I heard all kinds of guys' names. I never heard Andre Carter's name once. And apparently he made 4 tackles. I have no idea where these tackles were because they weren't for losses. So you have Banks, who dealt with Andre Carter. We haven't seen Shuck yet. Unfortunately, we lost one of the third-round picks to injury, Brockton. But Sanker and Riley now out there playing. How does this class look to you so far?
I really like this draft class. I do, and we talked about it in our post draft analysis that it was very clear that the Saints were identifying needs early in the draft. Their needs, not ours. Everybody, a lot of people wanted a quarterback in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people valued cornerback over safety. In day 2, myself included. The Saints did a good job at identifying needs in the first 2 days and value. Especially early in day 3, value combined with need. It's tough to give an overall grade or a grade to the overall class because Shuck hasn't played and Brockton has been out and we haven't seen Stutzman at all.
Not on defense, just special teams.
Right. Just by the way that Banks is playing and Sanker is playing, and the early reviews, albeit very early reviews, from Riley, you really have to be excited about the rest of this class too. And hell, even if Shuck never plays it down, then that's partially because Spencer Rattler felt so challenged by Shuck. And this isn't the sole reason, wouldn't be the sole reason, but Shuck, the presence of Shuck was maybe able to help push Rattler into being a better quarterback faster. And I've said it over and over again. I don't care whether it's Rattler, Shuck, Hitler. If you can play quarterback and be a long-term solution at this position, I'm all for it. I thought it would be Shuck, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Brockton was a head scratcher to us all. And unfortunately, it's going to be a while before we see whether the coaches were right in identifying him. But if Sanker and Riley keep this up, then you solidify your secondary with young pieces. At Banks looks like a keeper already at left tackle, allowing you to move Fuaga over to his more natural position of right tackle. And Banks is playing so well that people aren't talking about how well Fuaga has been playing. Talise has been banged up too. And I don't want to jump the gun too much, but we all remember how dominant the Saints offensive line was when you had Armstead at the left tackle and Ramczyk at the right tackle. And if the Saints could hit another tackle duo, even close to that, or reaching back like 20 years, Rofe at left tackle, Turley at right tackle, that was a dominant offensive line. You have the makings of something special. If Banks and Fuaga work out too.
Absolutely. I mean, all the draft investment that we have put in this offensive line, it's time to start seeing some dividends. It's time to start seeing these guys play to their potential, because I'm like the rest of y'all. I'm tired of drafting offensive linemen in the first round. I want to draft receivers. I want a damn tight end that can catch a ball and run routes. I want a pass rusher because we need one badly. I'm very envious of teams that have a pass rusher, and believe me, I've got that kid from Miami circled on my board right now.
Yes.
Because it's frustrating. Chase Young has not played it down yet for us in the regular season, and I know how calf injuries are. It's not something you can do surgery on, and okay, it's like a car in 4 weeks, and we have a car out. It's something that's got to be treated massaged and God knows what else done to it. You stay off of it and everything else, and you have to come back in a week and say, okay, let's see how it looks now. Is the
Yep.
muscle responding to the treatment?
And then
Anybody?
you have to redo your work on your conditioning too,
Yep,
because of the nature of the injury, you've had to take so much rest.
exactly. So his calf theoretically could be well enough to play, but he's not in condition right now to play. And that's probably why Kellen Moore sat him down as of last Wednesday as fast as he did, because while I loved seeing Taysom and Foster Moreau out there, it was obvious they weren't completely in football condition.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take them a little while to get to that point again. Somebody was saying, hey, Taysom didn't look very explosive. Is the age showing up now? It's like, man, the guy just came off of injury,
Right.
probably activated a little too early,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a good thing to get the momentum going in this offense and the momentum going for the fans that, give them a little bit of time. In a few weeks, let's see where they are. And I think that's going to be the case, unfortunately, with Chase Young. It's just frustrating because we want to see these guys out there. We need to see these guys out there, and they're not playing it right now. So believe me, I still have a pass rusher on my wish list because I don't want to have to wait on Chase Young again. I'd like to get a rookie out there, and have him rotate in so it's not Mike Rumpf.
Well, even with that, even if Chase was healthy, throughout Chase Young's career, some people have even labeled him as a bust, mainly because he's never been a finisher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we openly question why the Saints would make the decision to sign him to a fairly lucrative, it's not record breaking, but it was a fairly lucrative contract extension. And then really did not address edge rusher at all in free agency, and not until late in the draft. So that led us openly questioning, why do you think Chase Young is the answer to your pass rushing problem when he's never been the answer to anyone's pass rushing problem? So you factor that in. You factor Cam Jordan's age and deteriorating abilities. At least deteriorated to the point he's no longer a dominant player.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Granderson, nice player, not the kind of player that keeps quarterbacks and offensive coordinators up at night trying to figure out how to stop. So I contend that even if Chase Young was healthy and has played every snap, the pass rusher would still be a need for this team.
Absolutely. If we get a top 5 pick, I definitely want to take a pass rusher over a quarterback right now. That's why I want the quarterback position to get fixed, or at least that we don't have to go out there and grab one with a top 5 pick. Although there are a couple of quarterbacks I like out there, just I don't know if they're worth a top 5 pick right now. Calvin, I'm exactly where you are with this because of 2 reasons. Number one, part of the reason the Saints haven't been very good at stopping a guy like Scatterboo and having trouble last week with James Cooks is then missing that nose guard, that big body space-eating nose guard that pushes and closes the offensive line gaps. So the running back that has no place to go. And the second thing is, we haven't talked about him yet, but Brian Brzee. First off, he's a giant killer. That guy is a wrecking ball for the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he leapt over the offensive line, the special teams line to block the field goal. 2 years ago, he sacked Tommy DeVito several times, and every time he did this little number. And then this past week, he was the one that punched out the ball from Scatterboo that led to the Howden touchdown, and he is a menace, and the Giants knew it. They were focusing all their blocking on him, letting the other guys go one-on-one. So if you get a space eater just like with Leroy Glover way back when Norman Hand showed up. You get a space heater in there next to Brian Brzee. They can't afford to double team Brzee and triple team Brzee. They're going to have Brzee one-on-one with a lot of guys. Space heater inside next to him and an elite pass rusher on the edge. They're not going to know how to stop that. That would fix a lot of Saints defensive problems right there. And you can only do that if you finally fix your other problems you've been having for so long along that offensive line. Have you been impressed with Brian Brzee, or you're one of these guys that's like, he's an almost player. He's almost there. He's almost there.
I love Brian Brzee as a player, and I think he's been a great fit in this defense. Yes, he needs to finish more plays. And he had that awful 2 or 3 play sequence in Seattle. That was just a bad day at the office. Kind of a snowball effect. I don't think Brian Brzee, especially with his role in a 3-4 base scheme, he's never going to be a 15 sack a year kind of guy, but he doesn't have to. No. I think just with what you just said about how the Giants approached him, and if you go back and watch the Bills, the Bills blocked him in a similar way. Other teams know that he is capable of disrupting what they want to do offensively. So having said that, I still want to see more plays, more finishing plays from Brian Brzee. But having said that, I think he is a key to this defensive front. And you said it. I don't remember whether we've gone on the air yet or not, but it feels like, for most of this season, that Brian Brzee is the only defensive lineman out on the field. Tell me what you've seen Godshaw or Shepard or any of those other down linemen do. Nothing. And they're not eating up blocks either. If they were eating up blocks, if Godshaw was a Casey Hampton or a Tony Saragusa, just that guy Vince Wilfork, just that guy that commands 2 or 3 blockers just because of his presence. Then that's going to give other teams or other players one-on-one opportunities, free shots at the ball, et cetera. But Godshaw's not even doing that. Right. I think if he were, then you would see an uptick in Brian Brzee's stats as far as tackles for loss and especially sacks. I think it's coming. It's going to be probably the type of thing where all of a sudden, just 1 week, Brzee going to put up a stat line of like 2.5 sacks and 5 tackles for loss and a forced fumble, and then there's going to be a bunch of people say, "Well, where's that been all this year?" It's right on the cusp, folks. It is right on the cusp. But make no mistake, Brian Brzee is this team's best down lineman on defense by far at this moment.
Absolutely. And Hemisphere, the question you have about who's the rookie DT they lost to injury from Texas, that is Willie Brockton. And the player that Calvin was talking about, we got the wrong DT from Texas. He's talking about Alfred Collins.
Yes.
Yeah, Alfred Collins is the better guy for sure, but I think he went in the first round, maybe the early second.
He went early, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know the guy I wanted, Walker, is playing for Buffalo right now, and that's a big ass right there.
Yeah.
So, the 454-pound guy from Florida, though, I don't think he's in the league. He couldn't lose weight, and they were talking about, he's not used to that because he was with Tampa and he was trying to lose weight. He says, he's not used to that heat in Tampa. I'm like, he played in friggin' Gainesville. What the hell? He knows the heat. Yeah. So, I've heard this. The receiver for the Tennessee Titans, they finally cut. It's not Boyd. What the hell is his name?
Treylon Burks.
Yeah. You know, the problem I have with Burks, and it's the problem that a lot of people are going to have with him, is he is another. Who was that guy we had gotten that was drafted like number 7 overall? That receiver. Um, it was Sean Payton years last year, and then like 2022. Kevin White.
Kevin White.
I think he's another Kevin White.
Mm-hmm.
A guy with tremendous potential, all world speed, all neighborhood hands. It's a name right now. I don't have much hope for him at all. But yeah, that's exactly it. Burks is next Kevin White for sure. Yeah. So since Jerry's bringing it up, New England upset Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. I was actually very surprised by seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
This is New England's second win in a row. They destroyed the Panthers the week before. Buffalo looks incredibly, I don't want to say lazy, but sloppy.
Yes.
They are making a lot of mistakes and are counting on high-end talent to kind of bail them out, especially the MVP. Like Josh Allen, he'll bail us out. He'll make the plays, and we'll win. New England's a kind of a trap game, and it's weird to say that because we're only 1-4. But after beating the Giants and feeling kind of good about ourselves, if we go out and play a sloppy game or we struggle to do anything offensively again, New England's going to kick the shit out of us. How do you Anna, why do I remember Kevin White? It's just one of those things. It really is. But how do you feel about New England?
The fact that you called it a potential trap game, I think is a pretty accurate assessment. Talent-wise, New England is not going to wow you. I mean, this is not a talented team from top to bottom. But with Mike and Jordy Haltberg said it with me this morning. This is Mike Vrabel is the coach there now, as a lot of you know. And say what you will about Vrabel, he can make a bad team. He's good. He's a good enough coach, fundamentally wise, to make a bad team look average and an average team look good. He's not the kind of coach, in my opinion, to make a good team great, which is why he's not in Tennessee anymore, because he's had those opportunities. But Vrabel's teams are going to physically challenge you on both sides of the football. Teams have not been able to run the ball on them, which is going to be a very interesting challenge for New Orleans. To see if Kellen Moore is going to stay patient with the run, and B, is Spencer Rattler and those receivers going to make the plays again through the air to back some of that, some of those linebackers and safeties off a little bit. Drake May playing very well, at quarterback, frankly surprising me how well he's played. At New England, they're 3-2. They should be 4-1. They should have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had some uncharacteristically sloppy turnovers. Yeah. They pushed the Steelers all over the field that day, but turned the ball over like 4 or 5 times, including 3 times in the red zone. Otherwise, you're talking about a 4-1 team here. But a 4-1 team, 3-2 team that's, as I like to put it, punching above their weight class, because they're not nearly as talented as the Buffalo Bills. They just beat them because they played fundamental football. And if you do that, and you're a young team and you do that, your confidence grows. Mm-hmm. So I could kind of understand why a lot of people coming into this season, why a lot of people were saying, if you're looking for a team ready to make a big jump, look at the New England Patriots. Now, I vehemently disagreed with that at the time, but you're right, Alan. If the Saints don't come out ready to play, New England is going to physically kick your ass.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest thing. You said it exactly right. That they are playing above their heads. They don't have the talent level. They're about the same talent level we are.
Yeah.
They're better at quarterback, but they're not as good at running in the running game, and they're certainly not as good in the passing game. But they're making plays, and defensively, they're stuffing the run and making you play their kind of football game, which is classic Mike Vrabel, a very physical. They control the time of possession to wear your defense down. Very patient team that pounces on mistakes that you make as a team. And the Saints, unfortunately, have been in a situation where they make a lot of mistakes, and we have seen they've lost a lot of games because of the kinds of mistakes that we have self-inflicted, pre-snap penalties, defensive mistakes, blown coverages, failing to capitalize on opportunities like drop passes in the end zone or inaccurate throws. Those things, all those things that, have hurt us. And we saw Seattle take advantage of that 3 weeks ago. This could be another game. That said, they're still a beatable opponent. They're playing in the dome. Our strengths, I'm going to put that in quotation marks, our strengths are some of the Patriots' weaknesses, but I don't know if we'll be able to take advantage of it. I hope we can, because you look at these next 5 games, the only 2 hard teams that are on the schedule, the next 5 games, are Tampa, who's got a 4-leaf clover tattooed on their ass.
Yeah.
There's no way you can keep winning. They've won 4 games by a combined 9 points. And a couple of these games, like you mentioned, New England, fumbling away against the Steelers, a couple of those games, it came down to a missed field goal or a blocked field goal or, a late turnover that gave the Bucks the opportunity to win the game. So you've got that game, and you also have the Los Angeles Rams.
Yep.
But to me, the Saints should go 3-2 over these next 5 games. At worst, winning 2 of them, because you should beat New England. Not New England. You should beat Chicago. You should beat the hell out of Carolina. Those are 2 bad teams. And Dennis Allen is a defensive coordinator for Chicago. You got to believe that they want to take advantage of that. This defense wants that game. So,
yes.
You've got to win at least 2 of these games. But if the Saints keep doing what they've done with bad mistakes and shooting themselves in the foot, I don't know if they'll get pre-snap penalties, because they seem to have cleaned that up. Again, knock on wood. Because we're going to talk about one other player in a minute, but I want to bring him up first. Spencer Rattler. How much longer of a leash do you give him now that he's won a game?
I do. I actually do extend that leash a little bit. Obviously you're not gonna. He certainly played well enough to not be benched. For New England, and even if he plays poorly, I don't think you start Tyler Shuck on the road.
No.
The next week's opponent, if I'm not mistaken, is in Chicago.
It is.
And then after that, you got Tampa, and then the Rams, and then Carolina.
Yeah, and Rams and Carolina are both on the road, if memory serves. So Tampa is the only home game.
And the bye.
I
I think Spencer Rattler might have bought himself, unless he puts together 2 or 3 weeks in a row, with like 50% completion percentage and 3 picks per game. I think Spencer Rattler's bought himself at least until midseason, before the conversation legitimately. And this is weird because last week, we talked about it on the Bayou Blitz, but I know, and I wrote about it. And I know you talked about it on Under the Dome because you commented on the article. Last week at this time, we're talking, okay, if Spencer Rattler does not play well against the Giants, it's time to sit him. And again, my theory was the same as it was with Simpkins, Riley, Sanker, Stutzman. You got to know, you have to find out what you have in Shuck. But Rattler played well enough and has played well enough early in the year to buy him a little bit of a leash. And with as well as he played against New York, bought him, like I said, in my opinion, looking at the schedule, probably bought himself at least until midseason before the conversation needs to be at least, at the very least, talked about again.
Yeah. As of right now, I've got the bye week 11 as a possibility that he could be replaced. And to me, if he wins two games or 3 games that are left out of those 5, then you may not see Shuck at all.
Yeah.
But if he goes over or only wins 1 game, then, the conversation will start up again. Because, as we talked about already, the 0 for 3 in the red zone. He only threw 1 touchdown pass in the game. I mean, the defense kind of beat the Giants for you at 5 consecutive turnovers. He's playing well enough, but he needs to take that next step. When does that happen? I'm not benching him because he loses to Tampa. I'm not benching him because he loses to the Rams. But losing to the Panthers or losing to the Bears, then the conversation starts again. I know the stats. The Patriots issue is, do they beat themselves? And do they get in a position where they are struggling they have to step out of their comfort zone and kind of do things they don't like to do? So, yeah, Ace Pilot, I agree with a lot of that. They've got, the Patriots are a much better team than what we thought of in the beginning of the season, but they are playing above their weight. You never know. That's why I don't have that game as, okay, this is a game they got to win. That's not the game. I have a 50-50 shot on this, depending on how this game turns out. If it turns into another Seattle, I would not be shocked, but I'll be disappointed. It's the Bears and the Panthers games where I'm really going to be like, if you lose to those 2 teams, I'm really going to be upset. No, we don't. Honestly, Calvin, this answer, do we still have a real number 1 receiver? We don't.
No.
Chris Olave gets targeted a lot, and that's part of the problem. We don't see very many passes thrown to Valet. He's out there, but Olave gets targeted a lot more. So it's tough. It's really tough. Yeah. No, I agree. Again, Ace Pilot, I agree. That's why Bob said it's going to be tough to run the football on these guys. So how do you beat these guys? Some of it's going to have to be some outside zone runs. Some of it's going to have to be, you have to loosen up that defense, make them think about the pass. And that means Rattler's got to push the ball downfield. Can he do that consistently? I don't know. So that takes us to the last part of the show. Special teams for the Saints. They're really struggling. They had an awful game against the Giants.
Yeah, and they ain't special in the good way. They're special in a short bus kind of way.
Short bus licking the window way, yeah. We didn't have a good punting game at all. We had bad punts. Um, we have bad coverage. Twice the Giants got some big returns. And this is beyond JT Gray not being on the team anymore. I mean, just we're making mistakes out there. And it comes from having a lot of young guys out there playing on defense, on special teams. A lot of these rookies that we're talking about and these backup players we're talking about, they're losing their lane discipline and chasing the ball. And that's giving the opponent kick returner opportunities to make big plays. Meanwhile, we got an idiot out there fielding the ball at the 3 and trying to do a return off of that.
Not anymore. He got cut today, but yeah.
Oh, did he get cut?
He did. Yeah, the corresponding move in signing Michael Davis was cutting Velus Jones.
Yeah, I figured that pissed off Kellen Moore a lot, because here you took the ball instead of playing defense to start the game. You wanted to come out on offense, and you stick your offense inside the 10. You know, that's never a good look. But the worst part about it all is that Blake Grupe has missed at least one field goal in every game this season. Is it time to replace him?
It's time to look at potential replacement options. I think if they were going to replace him, we might have seen it today.
Thank you, Ace Pilot. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Ace Pilot.
And I have a lot of respect for you guys. You're not the Falcons or anybody like that. In fact, I was so glad you beat the Falcons. Thank you so much. But yeah, we have a lot of respect for you guys and what you guys are doing right now. So, and there's a lot of Saints fans who wanted Mike Vrabel as our head coach. So you got a good one there. But yeah, going back to grouping. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's time to pull out the Rolodex, start looking at these kickers. Charlie Smythe, I don't know if he'll be or is it Smith or Smythe? I don't remember.
I think it's Smith, but I've always pronounced it Smythe too.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled. So, but here's the problem with kickers. You're not going to find a Brandon Aubrey off the street. You're going to find, and this is what I'm afraid of if we go this route. You remember Sean Payton getting fed up with John Carney. He can't get deep enough. You know, I can't rely on him. I have to be inside the 30 really for a field goal for him. I want a kicker with a stronger leg who can boom it into the end zone, you know, that kind of thing. So then we started the carousel. All the different place kickers we got. And just like Thanos said, all your searching led you right back to me.
Yep.
We bring John Carney back until, you know, he gets replaced basically as then becomes a kicking coach for Garrett Hartley. And even after Hartley, we go through the cycle again. You know, Lindo Mare, Martina Gramatica, you know, it took us a while I think it was 2015 or 2016 before we finally found Will Lutz. Mm-hmm. You know, I just don't know who the kicker is out there. He's the worst rated kicker in the NFL right now. I know that. So it sounds like anybody would be an upgrade. But how do we know we don't end up with another Moody? You know, who the 49ers just got rid of. Now, there's one name to watch. And I can't believe I'm saying this person's name. But there is a name to watch who comes off suspension on week 11, the same week as our bye week. And that's our old friend from the Baltimore Ravens, Tucker, who likes massage parlors.
Yeah.
He and Deshaun Watson. If Grupe keeps this up, because it sounds like that Kellen Moore wants him to kind of work his way through it and see if he can recover from this
which I'm okay with, by the way.
Yeah, I am too, honestly, because this isn't a playoff team. He's not. If he costs us a game, he's not going to be the only one that's going to cost us a game. You understand what I'm saying? But would you take a shot at, is it Jason Tucker? I can't just, or Jacob Tucker.
Justin
Tucker. I knew it was something with a J. But do you take a shot with Justin Tucker if Grupe keeps missing at least one field goal, if not two, game for the next 3 or 4 weeks?
If that happens with Grupe and you win the next 3 or 4 games and you're legitimately in the NFC South race, but you have zero confidence in your kicker, then yeah, you 100% bring in Justin Tucker. That's the only way it happens, though. Yeah. Otherwise, if Grupe continues to to look like Happy Gilmore before he learned how to putt, then you start a carousel. You start bringing in young kickers to see if maybe you do find the next Will Lutz or Diamond in the Rough. But given the controversy that would come along with Tucker, I don't think you touch him unless you're a contender.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Grupe clearly has the yips right now, and it's hard to explain why. Grupe might not even know why. I mean, he has a new holder. You talk to any kicker, that takes some time to get used to. But we know that Blake Grupe can make these kicks because we've seen Blake Grupe make these kicks.
Absolutely.
So that's why I have zero problem with Kellen Moore hoping, to kind of let Grupe kick his way out of the slump. Yeah. Will Lutz went through a slump. His last year in New Orleans. No, next to last year in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And Sean started bringing in. Was it Sean or Dennis by then? I don't remember.
I think it was Sean. Sean started bringing in some kickers because his last year with the Saints was Dennis Allen's first year. So I think it was 2021 that he started having some problems. So, he touched the phone.
I did. Am I back?
Yes, you're back. But yeah, he because Grupe came in, I think in 2023. I think it's 2023, 24, and 25. This is his third year with the Saints. I think 2022 was Will Lutz's last year. What year did they go? What year did they play the Vikings in Europe? Was that 23?
I think it was.
Let me look at something. I could be off. I could be wrong. I might be off by a year because that was Grupe's first year. Let me look at something here. Because I want to say I want to say 2023 is when we brought in Grupe, because that was the first year that he was that Sean Payton was in Denver, and he picked him up almost immediately. As soon as we decided to go with Grupe, Lutz showed up over there.
Actually, I think it was a trade. I think they traded Lutz to Denver.
Yeah, it could have been. It probably was. Yeah, 2023 was his first year. So 2022 was his last year in New Orleans. So 2021, he must have been on IR all year because there's no stats for him for 2021.
Yeah, that's the year that they went through 3 or 4 kickers trying to replace Lutz because he was hurt. But the year before, 2020, Lutz had a slump. And a lot of you fans that are now yelling, saying, New Orleans got rid of the New Orleans got rid of the wrong kicker. They should have traded Grupe and not Lutz. Some of you were the same people in 2020. Lutz needs cut right now. Bring in a kicker, any kicker. Sometimes you have to just let your guy kick his way out of a slump, and maybe that works, maybe that doesn't.
His kicking percentage in 2020 was 82.1%. In 2022, it was 74.2%.
Maybe I'm thinking 2022 then.
But yeah, they were still screaming for his head a couple of times then too. Then his first year in Denver, 88.2. Last year, 91.2. Right now, it's 85.7. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of go on a roller coaster with kickers. I agree with you. I think it is time to get the Rolodex, get the guys out there on Monday, coming out, kicking the ball, letting groupies see that, and trying to respond to that. But the special teams in general have been bad, and they were bad on Sunday. The other thing we haven't talked about, but these new kickoff rules makes it really difficult for a guy like Grupe who just wants to boom it into the end zone with no return. Well, they get it out at the 35 if he does that. What the kickers are trying to do now, and Grupe's having trouble with, is getting that ball to land in the landing zone, but very close to the goal line. So they have to return it. They can't just down it in the end zone, and they get worse field position, So, yeah, Morton Anderson. My favorite joke Morton Anderson ever told. He said at the end of his career they asked for a blood sample and they drew dust. So, yeah, I don't know if Charlie Smythe is still on the practice squad. I don't know if he has an international exemption or not.
If he hasn't, if he was given an international exemption, that means they are not allowed to activate him this year. That's the thing. That's a new rule that I didn't even know. I wasn't even aware of myself until we were talking about it just before roster cuts were made. But because everybody knows that you can have an extra player on the practice squad if it's an international exemption. And like I said, what I didn't know until this year was if you use that international exemption, that international player is not eligible to come in onto the active roster.
Yeah, it does not say if he is. He's on the practice squad. But it does not say if he has an international exemption or not this year. He had it last year, so I don't know if they're playing that game or not. Just looking at, because when I tried to type in international, all I was getting was 2024 stories. So it's possible they are looking at him, letting him kick, because the practice squad players can practice. They could be watching his kicks and make a decision out of that. You never know. So yeah, I think we're both in agreement on that. Bob, Bayou Blitz this week?
Yeah, provided my technology holds out. We plan on going live tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central. Probably breaking down a little bit more of what we've seen from the Patriots, how we expect the Saints to attack, and highlighting some of the key players or positions to watch for the Saints to have a chance to beat the Patriots.
Absolutely. Bayou Blitz tomorrow night. Same bat time, same bat channel, 8:00 Central, 9:00 on the East Coast. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us and sticking with us. Bob, you only froze one time, and I think you're desperate for a cigarette right now because you're terrified to leave that phone and walk off with it. Just moving it one time froze you. So I appreciate you fighting nicotine kick to stick with us tonight, and we'll see you next time when Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.